Hello everyone, I hope you're having fun at home. This is my video recording for session 11. I will comment on the paper by Robert Dahl in which he proposes this skeptical view about the possibility that international organizations can have a sort of democratic process or a democratic nature within its institution and within the configuration of the processes of these international organizations and institutions. First, I would like to state that I agree in part with part of the logic and the argument of the author, to the extent that I believe that the issues that may arise or the controversies that may arise regarding the democratic nature of international organizations is a matter of scale, and is this dilemma that the author proposes that to the extent that the democratic unit is larger, there's a greater difficulty that citizens have the capacity to have a saying or influence on the decisions that are taken at an institutional level. So when we're dealing with international organizations, given the scope and the extent that these organizations encloses many interests, many many different interests and different ideologies and identities of people around the world, then it is more difficult for these organizations to have a democratic nature, given the fact that the complexity of discussing the topics that these institutions have to deal with is the principal reason why maybe some democratic processes and participation of everyone is very difficult to achieve. However, I must disagree to some extent to this skeptic view, and I would like in this point to connect with some of the ideas that were presented in a suggested paper for some previous session, which was Citizenship in an Era of Globalization by Wilkin Lika. I believe that even if direct participation by citizens is very difficult to achieve and to accomplish under the framework of international organizations, there's a way in which indirect participation may be useful so that citizens can make their own governments accountable for how these governments participate in this international and global level. To this extent, it is not necessary to have a direct participation of every citizen under the framework of an international organization, but rather that the participation of citizens can be made by the influence that those citizens have on the governments that represent their interests in a global level. Additionally, I believe that it is necessary as well to make a distinction between some of the matters that some international organizations deal with. Many of them are very technical and involve issues of trade and commerce, which may be useful to be delegated to experts and to people who are more who have more knowledge about those topics. So to that extent, maybe democratic participation in those topics that are more complex and which must be delegated to experts is more reasonable than to other aspects that may have a greater influence on the common life of citizens. So I believe that this assessment of the democratic nature of international organizations must not only recognize the possibility and the worthiness of having an indirect participation of citizens through their governments, but also recognize that there are many differences in nature regarding the topics that are discussed in these international organizations.